All right, so heads up real quick. I don't normally look like this. I just got done like playing an old guy for a video, so my hair's not usually this white, and it's not. My skin's not usually this weird looking. It is very weird looking, but not usually this weird looking. So yeah, don't worry. Nothing's wrong with me or anything like that. No more than usual. Anyway, I just got done seeing Halloween Kills, and before I say what I think of that, I should make it clear what I think of the films previous. Don't worry, I won't go through every sequel, just the ones that I guess count with this. The original Halloween, pretty much a classic. I mean, I know it's not like the first slasher film, but really helped popularize and is one of the earliest ones, and is very stylized, is very enjoyably a film of the time, and like I said, just practically helped invent this whole genre. But it's not one that I love. It's not one that I've seen it a couple times, definitely, but, you know, I don't rewatch it over and over, so I'm not someone that I wouldn't define myself as like a die-hard Halloween fan, if that makes sense. But it is very good, and I know why people get into it and like slasher films. Slasher films just kind of aren't my thing, but there are some really great ones. That is a great one. It just doesn't personally grab me, if that makes sense. The one that came out a couple years ago with Jamie Lee Curtis, the one that this is a sequel to, it's certainly not as good as the original Halloween, but I thought it was fine for, you know, a sequel that has the same name, that ignores all the other sequels, and is just gonna follow the formula again with only a few little tweaks. I know that's kind of what people are looking for. They just want a date night movie to go and watch, and cool, look, Jamie Lee's back and she's kicking ass and stuff. Neat. It got the job done totally fine. Now we have the sequel to that, Halloween Kills, and this is rough because there's a lot of parts of this movie I actually like more than the previous one. I was watching this majority of the way through thinking, holy smokes, I think I might actually prefer this over the last really, really big hit, which I wasn't expecting. But this is one of those cases where they don't stick the landing. They don't really come through with the ending, and it does really damage the rest of the film. And I was really thinking, do I say don't go see this just because of the ending? I mean, I've done videos on this. Can the ending ruin a movie? And in this case, it does, because so many other things are either being built up or are such strange choices that you think are gonna come through. You think it's building up to what's gonna happen in the last third, and it never happens. This movie is like a disappointing ending to a concert that you think is intentional because they're saving it for the encore, and the encore never comes. This is really a flick that should have focused more on its own ending rather than planning the ending of its next sequel, if that makes sense. The setup is that it's right after the last film, literally the exact same night. Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie, is taken to the hospital. And Michael Myers, of course, gets out of the fire. You've seen that in the trailers. And he goes out to kill some more. There's a few other elements I'll tap on here. I'll say what I enjoy, what I was enjoying more than the previous one, is that, first of all, the kills in this movie, while not creative, like there's, you know, I'm a horror film fan, and, you know, there's a lot of creative kills, and they usually fall, you know, when it comes to slasher movies, they usually fall into, you know, one of maybe two categories. Well, okay, there's a lot of different types of horror films, but with slasher films, usually it's either supposed to be a very run-of-the-mill, okay, let's just wait for them to get killed. You know, just kind of like, just mark them off the list. Introduce your dumb characters that you like, saying, haha, aren't they stupid, and then just kill them off. In a way that's creative, but, you know, it matches the killer. Or something where the kills are just super crazy, silly, over the top, it's comedic. It doesn't even matter who it happens to, almost, you know, just as long as they kill them in these super crazy, goofy ways. Or they have to be really intimidating. this is the first time since probably the original Halloween where I was intimidated by these kills. These are brutal. These are gruesome. And it isn't just the gore, though that does play a big part, of course, as it would in a slasher film, especially Halloween. But the way they're done and the way they're shot and the way this... the actor who plays Michael Myers in this moves and the way he kills these people and even who he kills sometimes. Sometimes they kill off characters I was like, wow, I really was not expecting that. They bring in some past... I want to say like past cast members, like, oh wow, like one of the big names. No, they were kind of just people that were in the background, you know, like in the first movie, but they do bring him in. And then they introduce some other characters that, you know, okay, they look like they're going to be around for a bit. And a lot of them aren't. And I know, yeah, the slasher film, that's what they do. But they do build up these characters enough that you think, well, they got some time in them, you know, or even like these little... cute comic reliefs that come in and stuff like that, you know, will get axed off. So I like that a lot. I was legit creeped out and intimidated by Michael Myers in this one, which I really haven't felt since the original first film. So I really like that. There is some commentary, which... pros and cons, if I'll say the pros first. There's commentary on mob mentality in this, which... I'm trying to think. I don't really remember in the Halloween films. I could be wrong. You know, there's a lot of sequels. But this was touching on it in a way that was a little silly if you think about like the characters' choices in this. For example, there's a scene where a lot of people in a hospital, they're chasing after the killer who they think is Michael Myers, and the guy they're chasing after doesn't at all look like him. Like, he's this little doughy guy, and I'm thinking, this is the age of the internet, and this is years later. They would know what Michael Myers looks like. And a lot of the choices these characters make in general are just not bright choices, but that's also something you kinda expect in these movies. In a slasher movie, they're always gonna make kind of the dumb choices. There's not that many fake out scares in this, you know, Chun, haha, it's just me, like, and the last one had so many of those, and again, I know that's part of the course. Those are just the cliches that drive me nuts. Like, they're so stupid, and they waste time, and they're not fun. This was really good, and not only not having those, but at faking you out where the killer's gonna be. So it's not like a fake out scare like, oh, here's someone that comes up, you hear the chun music, and it's just a person saying hello, or a hand grabbing someone, say, hey, how are you? It's a fake out scare in that you think the scare is gonna be maybe over in that closet, and then maybe it sort of draws your attention over here, and then maybe it was in the closet. Or it's one of those where you have all these setups where you're like, oh, Michael's gonna be there. Man, they're zooming on this, he's gonna be there, and then he comes from the opposite direction. Which, yes, horror films are supposed to do that, especially slasher films, but they don't usually do it effectively. They don't do it that well, or they've done it to a point where you just know where they're gonna appear. This one legit kind of faked me out several times, it was especially with some very clever camera moves, and I really applauded for that. So that stuff, it was getting me into what I should be getting into in a slasher film. The acting is hokey, but in a fun way, particularly when there's flashbacks to the 80s. That's another thing, is that the 80s flashbacks really look like an 80s film, and they kind of act like an 80s film, but I don't know, they color corrected it, they shot it a certain way, but it's very... The first time they did it, I was legit like, wait, is this footage from, you know, like the first movie? And it was. You quickly figure that out. So I really like that. Even like the pumpkin effects that they show in the opening while the credits roll, you kind of see that square around them, like in the old Star Wars when you see like the squares around the TIE fighters and the ships flying through, because like the matting didn't match exactly. So I love that. All of that is great details, and again, I don't mind that the acting's a little hokey, because it does take me back to kind of that hokey acting of like the late 70s, early 80s, and I found it a little charming, honestly. So all of that I really liked. let's get into the bad stuff now. So many of the choices the characters make in this are just too fucking stupid. They are so dumb and so awkward and just so not what a human being would do sometimes. But even that's not really the biggest problem. The bigger problems, I think, is that, first of all, you got, Laurie's back in this. They get Jamie Lee Curtis back. Great. How does she go from, as she was saying when she was promoting the previous film, victim taking back her power to being laid up in bed the whole film? That's literally all she does. She lays in bed and makes some speeches. Nothing else. Huge letdown, especially when it looks like they are building up that she's gonna, get revenge in the end. That she's in bed, she's saying, oh, he's out there and he's turning us against ourselves and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, this is building it up. Here we go. And she just stays in bed the whole movie. It's really lame. Some of the stuff that a lot of the characters are doing in this film, again, in terms of their backstory, in terms of cutting to these flashbacks, in terms of there's a sheriff character in this who just has this look of, he has this dazed look, like he's just lost control. You think he's gonna get a redemption arc or something, and he never does. There's so many scenes like that where you're just saying okay, well that was weird, but obviously it's building up to something, and it doesn't. Without going into spoilers of what happens in the climax, I say climax, there really isn't a climax. There's the first part where, if you've ever seen a horror film, okay, this is the first part of, maybe the third act. Even then, it kind of feels like the ending of the second act, really. But, it's gonna lead to something else, because you're well, it can't end like that. That was super underwhelming, and again, have you ever seen a slasher film, a horror film? That's nowhere to really go with it. And they kind of do. They had one other little scene at the end that is pretty much, again, I don't think this is a spoiler if you've ever seen a horror film, but sequel baiting, pretty much. And it feels cheap, and it doesn't feel like a climax. It doesn't feel satisfactory. It doesn't leave you wanting more in terms of, I want to see another movie. It leaves you feeling unsatisfied. Well, where's the rest of what was promised to us? Where's the third act? Where's the climax? Where's the stuff that we paid to see in a film like this, in a slasher film? So all of that really, really, really gets in the way. And I feel bad giving this film, a negative review and saying it's not worth your time. Because I do think there's some moments that really, really work and I think are entertaining. But I think when you look back on it, at the whole thing, you're going to see there's a lot of stuff that really doesn't add up and doesn't go anywhere. And yes, they do the Candyman remake thing too, where the commentary is very clear. You don't need to analyze it, and they analyze it. Don't do that. Leave the criticism to us. We'll analyze the film, okay? We'll talk about it. It's a goddamn Halloween sequel. People are going to be talking about these forever. You don't need to be the article that's written about it. Just do what you're supposed to do. Actually, show the commentary. Don't say the commentary. Show, don't tell. It's like the oldest thing in movies. So, and even to a point where when they're talking about it, because it's about kind of the mob mentality element, they're using words like divided. That was his ultimate thing, using fear to divide us. And I was thinking back and I'm like, did they? Were they divided? You got Laurie and her family are saying, no, that's not the wrong guy. But I was like, I couldn't think of too many other characters that were turning on each other. No, this is what we should do. No, this is what we should do. That really wasn't what was going on. It was the mob mentality of everyone, gaining up against, a seemingly innocent person. So, but, that's obviously, they put it in there so they can be, well, there's that one person, probably one person, could be a couple people, using fear against us and trying to divide us, and unless we do something, it's just gonna keep growing, and you don't need to do that. Or if you are gonna do it, keep it short, like Invasion of the Pod People. What do you say? You could be next! That's all you need! You don't need him to sit down and say, let's really talk about the significance of what the pods mean and how this can, really overthrow us in more ways than one. Let's give a very long speech in the third act. No, just... you have the story, you have the setup, we'll connect the dots. Just give us the dots to this very obvious picture and let us connect it. You're just not letting it tells us that you think the audience is really full of morons. And yes, this is, if you're going into a Halloween film, first of all, slasher films and horror films really do have a lot more intelligence than people give credit for. That's why, even though I don't get into them as much, I acknowledge they're smart, and there's tons of commentary in them, and they're very well made, and the skill and everything else. So, that's why I really do respect them. I just don't, they're just not my thing. But when you're gonna go in and do this and just constantly spell out everything, what is there gonna be left to talk about? You've already talked about it. I feel like you're just kind of feeding to, a crowd of people that already agree with you. And even then it's a little hypocritical because the characters are saying like, no, don't do the mob mentality thing, don't do that. And then later the main characters go with the mob to go get Michael Myers. And I'm just like, well, wait, you're already going against your message. And then you have a speech at the end saying that's a bad thing to do. So it already goes back and forth. So yeah, this, I guess I'm saying if you're looking for some brutal kills, if you're looking for a nostalgic feel like those old 80s films in terms of the acting and in terms of how it looks, you'll be glad you saw it. I don't know if you'll say it's a good movie, but you'll be glad you saw it. If you're looking for like a complete Halloween sequel or a good film to take your date to and be like, oh no, look, there he is and stuff like that, I don't think this is a good movie for that, because it's either taking itself too seriously and not doing it especially well, or it's not following through with what you'll be looking for in a film like this. It's sort of the fun element of the scares. So, yeah, I sadly don't really recommend this film, but maybe I'm wrong. If you've seen it and you had a good time, let me know, and let me know what you enjoy about it. If you saw it and you thought, that was okay, that was worth it, also let me know that. If you saw it and you thought it was terrible, also let me know. I love to know your thoughts. I don't know what the response is going to be to this movie. Like I said, I've been wrong about this stuff before, certainly, but yeah, I love to know, especially if you're a slasher film fan or a Halloween fan. I love to know what you think of this movie. Did you think the commentary was too much on the head, or did you think that actually was welcome? You would like more of that in a Halloween film? I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know below, and I will see you next time. Take care.